ahead and mute yourselves. I will also mute on this end just in case anyone isn't muted. All right. We are all muted. You can turn your screens off if you want or leave it on. And I'm just going to fix my screen so that. All right, so happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome back. It's good to see you all for yet another week. So we are going to start this evening on our backs in a comfortable spot, the usual. So go ahead and take a minute to start to set yourself up. And what I mean by that is kind of doing all those little things that you do before class or at the beginning of class to really prepare yourself for your class. So that could be starting to become really intentional with the position of your body. So you don't want to just lie down and stop. You want to kind of think about it. How do I feel? Maybe you need to bend or straighten your legs. Maybe you need to bring your hands to your stomach and your heart or extend them wide out to the side. So be really intentional with that shape. Find one that feels comfortable. And then be really intentional with your breath. Start to slow it down. Maybe first check in with it. Notice what your breath is doing. You might find that it's really short and shallow. It's staying in here in your chest, and your chest might be rising and falling, but that's it. We want to take that breath and bring it all the way down into the lungs, into what feels like the stomach. I describe our stomach moving when we breathe, but really it's the lungs that are doing it. But you want to feel that movement in the stomach. So inhaling, letting that stomach expand. Exhaling, letting it contract. And see if you can slow that down. So deeper, fuller, and slower breaths. And then we also want to start to check in with our minds. Notice where you're at in your head right now. Maybe you're a million different places. Maybe you've been running around, or maybe not, but you're still just preoccupied or distracted or thinking about something else. So take this time now to sort of press pause on whatever it is that's running through your mind or whatever you might be thinking about. So think of it like almost like a movie or a script that you can just press that pause button. You can pick it up later, but for this next hour, let yourself sort of take a break from whatever it is that you were thinking about. Before we start to move, we're going to set an intention. So your intention is just another way to keep yourself focused while you're practicing yoga. So rather than letting your mind go a million different places, you're going to think about that intention and hopefully kind of stay here. So balance is always an example I like to use. Breathing is a great example. Slowing down, letting go, being patient with yourself, kind to yourself. We call this practice because we're always practicing and improving and being patient with ourselves. So take a moment, set that intention, take another really nice deep breath. And then when you're ready, we'll slowly start to make our way into that full body stretch. So some of you might have had your knees bent, or you might even be in another shape other than on your back. That's okay. But at this point, you're going to start to make your way into that full body stretch with the arms lifted overhead, the legs extending long, and just start to move the fingers, move the toes. Sometimes I like to move from side to side a little bit or roll my ankles and wrists. It always reminds me of what it feels like when you get up in the morning, maybe, if you have a nice slow morning and you can take your time stretching in bed. So go ahead and stretch in whatever way feels good for you. And then slowly the knees will start to come in towards the body. The arms will come around the legs. So you're kind of bringing your hands to your shins. Give yourself a little hug as you start to press that spine down into the mat. When you were lying flat, you might have noticed a little curve. Some of your spine was lifted off the mat, but now think about pressing the entire spine down onto the mat, creating that connection with the earth. Maybe a little side to side movement or a little circling action with the knees. And then let's just bring both of our knees to the mat, or both of our feet to the mat. Your knees are bent. And then the right leg is going to extend. And we'll start to raise and lower that right leg. So sort of moving with your breath. I like to think about it as I inhale, I lift the leg. As I exhale, I bring it back down. So doing that a couple more times. Each time you do, the back of the leg is starting to warm up a little bit, starting to loosen up and open up. So you might bring the leg a little bit closer to you each time. And then the next time you do, bring your hands behind that leg. So you're going to start to draw the leg towards you. Doesn't have to be anything forceful, just enough so that you can get a little deeper of a stretch. It's okay if there's a little bend in your knee as well. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. The idea is just that we're starting to warm up here. You might even want to bend and straighten that knee if that feels good, or roll out the ankle. And then that right foot is going to come to the left knee, kind of making a little triangle shape if you were to look at your legs. And then the arms will extend wide to either side, and just gently allow the hips to rock from side to side. So when you go to the left, the right toes are kind of coming towards the ground, and then you go to the right and your right knee is coming towards the ground. Just take a couple rocks from side to side, gently twisting through the spine. And then as you make your way back through center, the left leg is going to lift up off the mat. The hands are going to start to interlace behind the left thigh. Start to activate both feet by flexing them. So really engaging the feet here as you draw the left leg towards you. Feeling a little opening in the right hip. That side to side movement can continue if it feels good to rock a little bit, or that knee bending and straightening, you can do that too. The left leg now. And then we're going to slowly bring both feet back to the mat. So that left leg can come down, the right foot can come back to the mat, and then the left leg is going to extend as we start to raise and lower that left leg. So just working on connecting the breath to the movement first. Sometimes I like to point my toe as I lift it and then flex my foot as I bring it back down, just to sort of really engage all the muscles and everything else in that leg, start to activate it. And then the next time you lift the leg, hands come behind the legs, you start to draw it a little bit closer to you. And same options as the other side. If it feels good to bend and straighten the knee, you can do that, or even wiggle the toes, move the foot. And then that left foot is going to come to the right knee. Hands come back out to either side of you, extending nice and wide. And then again, just rock it out from side to side. Left knee comes towards the mat, and then left foot comes towards the mat. They don't have to touch. It doesn't even have to be really close. Just however far it takes for you to feel like you're getting a nice twist through the back of the body. You know, everyone's different. When I do this one, I usually end up hearing some cracks in my spine, so you might feel that as well. And then the next time you come back through center, the right leg lifts up off the mat. The hands come behind the right thigh. Again, activating both feet by flexing them. Drawing that right leg towards you creates a nice little opening in the left hip. And I know I always say this, but it's worth repeating again. At the end of class, when we do our pigeon pose, where we're pretty much in this shape, but on our backs, or on our stomachs, I should say, you can always turn over and do it on your back again if you like it like this better. Some people don't love being on their stomach, and I get that. And then you can slowly bring both feet back down to the mat. So uncrossing that leg, both feet come to the mat. And then you can draw the knees back in towards you one more time. Hands come behind the thighs as you just gently start to rock yourself back up to a seated position. So you can take a couple rocks. It can be a nice little massage for the back of the body. For some people, it doesn't feel that great on your spine. So if that's you, just come on up to a seat in whatever way feels comfortable. Crossing the legs as you sit up nice and tall. Rock it out from side to side as you ground down through that tailbone, relaxing the shoulders. Take a deep breath in as you sit up a little taller. Good. And then on the next breath, we're just gonna start to lift the shoulders up and forward. And then as you exhale, let them roll down the back of the body. 2 more times, just like that. Inhale, draw the shoulders forwards and up. Exhale, let them release. 1 more time, inhale, creating a little tightness and a little tension when you do this. So you're kind of holding on to it. And then again, as you exhale, let it go. And then slowly bringing the chin towards the chest. So the spine continues to lengthen, but now the neck is sort of leaning forward a little bit, creating a little more length, a little more space. And then just slowly starting to roll your head all the way around, taking a couple circles in a way that feels comfortable for you. I know I say that line a lot, but it's important because it should feel comfortable for you. And if it doesn't, there's always options. So if you know of a modification that feels good, always do it. If you don't know of a modification, always ask me before or after class. I'm happy to give suggestions for any pose, not just this one. And then once you've taken a couple circles in both directions, you can start to come back through center, lifting your head back up towards the sky, sitting up nice and tall. We're all just going to bring one hand to kind of your chest or your heart and one hand to your stomach. We're going to close our eyes if you had opened them. We're just going to take 3 really deep, slow breaths. So we talked about this at the beginning of class, but I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose, maybe counting to 5 or 7, whatever feels like a realistic number. Feeling the chest rise, the stomach rise. And then as you exhale, you're going to count that same count. So if you did 5, count 5 out. You're going to do that 2 more times. Inhale. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5. Feel that expansion. Exhale as you let it go through the mouth. One last time at your own speed, so you don't have to follow me. When you're ready for that 3rd breath, go ahead and inhale completely. And then to the same count, start to exhale it out. Good. You can slowly start to open your eyes once you complete those 3 breaths. Just notice a little bit of calmness that comes over you. It's as simple as breathing. And that's really the secret to why we do a lot of what we do here on our mats, to bring our bodies into this alignment that allows us to breathe really well. There's other benefits, but that's one of them. Let's bring the soles of our feet together, coming into our butterfly pose. Interlace your hands under your toes. Start to lengthen through the spine on an inhale, so sit up really tall. And then on the exhale, keeping that straight spine, start to lean forward. So rather than curving the back, just kind of start to bring the chest towards the toes. And that might mean you're not coming down as far, but that's okay. You don't have to bend your back a lot so that your head touches your toes. We don't need to do that. As long as you're pressing that chest down and lengthening through that spine, you should feel a nice stretch, probably in the inner and outer thighs. And then on the next inhale, slowly start to lift it all the way back up. And we're just going to open up the legs, coming to a wide-legged V shape. So just sort of extend those legs long, flex through the toes. You can kind of rock from side to side, sort of situating yourself in a little more comfortably. And then on the next inhale, the arms are going to lift up as you relax the shoulders. The right hand is going to start to come to the right shin. The left arm is going to reach to the side. So almost like you're trying to press the left fingertips beyond the right toes. You should feel a nice stretch along the left side of the body. Take that left shoulder and press it back a little bit so that your chest is lifting up towards the sky. You're looking under that left arm and you're breathing. On the next breath, go ahead and lift it all the way up. The shoulders relax. That left hand is going to come to the left shin. Same thing to the opposite side. So this time the right fingertips are reaching beyond the left toes or working their way in that direction. Dial that right shoulder open as you lift up the heart a little bit more. Take that full breath. And then on the next inhale, all the way back up through center, relax those shoulders. And then this time the hands are going to come to the mat right in front of you. You're going to start to walk your hands away from you. This is a deep stretch. Any point in the class, this is a deep stretch, but definitely in the first 15 minutes or so, wherever we are, you're going to feel this one, or you're going to notice that you might not be coming into it as deep as you would otherwise. And that's okay. We want to work on connecting our breath to that movement and letting that breath start to guide you a little bit deeper. So each time you inhale, create that space in the back of the body, maybe sitting up a little taller. And then as you exhale, fingertips walk a little bit further away from you. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale as you lengthen through the back of the body. Exhale as you walk the fingertips away. One last time, inhale for length. Exhale, fold just a little bit deeper. letting the head become heavy as it starts to hang between the shoulders. And then just slowly starting to walk the hands back towards the body as you press yourself all the way up. You can take your hands and just sort of press the legs back together, tap the backs of them on the mat, sort of just to shake it all out. And then we're going to come into our first tabletop. So coming over onto your hands and your knees. We call it tabletop because you're in a nice little table shape with your knees below your hips, your wrists below your shoulders, and then the back spine is nice and straight to start. And then we'll start to move through our cat and cow. So as you inhale, the stomach shifts down, press it down towards the mat, take your gaze up. As you exhale, the back starts to round like you're pressing yourself away from the mat. And then continue to move just like that. Inhale, release the stomach down, take the gaze up. You're even feeling that stretch in your throat. And then as you exhale, the back rounds, press the ground away, create that angry cat back. And do that a couple more times with your breath. You always have the option to take any other movement here that feels good too. So some people like to rock their hips from side to side or kind of make circle shapes. Those are all options, or moving your head a little bit, moving your shoulders a little bit. If you're moving and it feels good, it's not wrong. And then once you complete the round that you're on, we'll start to come back through center. A nice flat back one more time before we make our way into our first downward facing dog. So to get there, you'll tuck your toes, start to straighten your legs as you press the hips up and back. Think about your hips being the highest part of your body. They're kind of pressing up towards the top corner of the room behind you. And just take a couple breaths here as you pedal out the feet, as you bend the knees and then straighten them. Shake the head, yes or no. You might have a little tightness or tension in the shoulders, and just shaking that head out helps release some of that. And then on the next breath, we're going to roll it out into our plank position. So just like a wave, notice if you have to adjust any. It's okay if you do. So the tailbone tucks under, the wrists are below the shoulders. That belly button is kind of drawing up towards the spine. And then we're going to bring the knees to the mat. You can untuck your toes, and you're going to lower your stomach all the way down onto the mat. Keep hugging the elbows in towards the body. So rather than bending the elbows out to the side, think about bending them behind you. A little more challenging. And then on the next inhale, find that baby cobra. So the upper body lifts up, the fingertips are lifting off the mat. I like to describe this like you're holding a pencil between your shoulder blades, and you're trying to kind of press the shoulder blades together so you can hold that pencil. So think about kind of pressing the shoulders back a little bit. And then go ahead and bring your hands to the mat and find your child's pose. So press the hands down, hips come to heels. And we're just going to stay here for one breath. So you don't have to settle all the way in. Just find that child's pose for a breath, and then begin to make your way right back to your downward facing dog by tucking your toes, straightening your legs, sending your hips up and back. You can continue to move here if it still feels good, or maybe you start to settle into one pose that you're just going to come into stillness and then start breathing in. If you're doing that, start to take your gaze towards your thighs or your shins. Start to press those heels down towards the earth. And then slowly, one more time, roll it out into your plank position. Tucking that tailbone, drawing that belly button up towards the spine. Hold it for one breath. And then the knees come down. Slowly, with intention, you'll lower yourself all the way onto your stomach one more time. And then this time, any cobra that feels good. So you can do that same baby cobra, or you press your hands into the mat and start to lift yourself up a little bit higher. Wherever you are, think about creating length in the back of the body. So you're not compressing all the vertebrae in the spine, you're rather lifting and creating length. And then slowly back to your child's pose. This time we'll hold it for about 3 breaths, so you can settle in here a little bit more. Bringing the toes together, the knees a little bit apart. If it feels good to move a little bit, you can. Sometimes I like to rock side to side. And then you can also choose your position with your hands. If you want to make it a little more active, it can feel good to sort of tent your finger or your hands, so just your fingertips are on the mat, Your arms can be lifted and kind of get a little stretch under the arms. You can also stack your hands and rest your forehead on your hands. Or there's always the choice to bring your fingertips next to your toes. This will take some of the pressure off the shoulders. So find your shape that feels good. Take about 2 or 3 more breaths. Whenever we're in these still poses, it's a great time to come back to that intention. Just kind of think about it, repeat it. It keeps you from going all the other places that our mind sometimes goes. So if your hands are not at the top of the mat already, go ahead and start to walk them back towards the top of your mat. Tuck your toes as you begin to make your way back into your downward facing dog. Send the hips up and back, straightening the legs. And then start to take your gaze so that it's at the top of your mat by your hands. And you're going to walk your feet up to meet your hands, coming to your first forward fold. So for this forward fold, your feet are about hip-width distance apart, and you're going to do whatever feels comfortable. I always like to hold on to opposite elbows, but you have lots of choices. You can bring your hands behind your head. That can feel nice because it sort of adds a little weight to the head and sort of draws it down a little bit. You can bring your hands behind your legs, maybe even massaging the backs of the legs a little bit if that feels good. Rock the hips from side to side. Movement is always encouraged if it feels good. Just letting the upper body kind of give into gravity for a couple more breaths. And then we're going to slowly start to peel the upper body up. So one vertebrae at a time, you'll start to make your way to standing, reaching the arms overhead. When you get there, a little back bend. As you step the feet together, we're going to interlace our hands and keep the pointer finger pointing up. So we're kind of pointing up towards the sky. Take a big breath in as you lift up. As you exhale, take it over to the left side so that we're stretching the whole right side of the body. Roll that right shoulder open, press the left shoulder forward so that you're not leaning forward and looking at the ground. You want to be looking up towards the ceiling. On the next inhale, lift it up. Keep relaxing those shoulders as you get taller, and then take it over to the right side, getting that same stretch on the left side of the body. Roll that left shoulder open and back. Look under that left arm. And again, inhale, lift it all the way up. And as you exhale, you can bring your hands to the sides of your body. We're going to step the left foot all the way to the back of the mat, coming into a warrior one. So left foot is about a 45-degree angle. Both hips are facing the top of your mat. So that left hip might want to be in the back and the right hip is forward. Go ahead and adjust it so both hips are squared. Take a breath in as you lift the arms up. As you exhale, bend into that right knee. Good. So that right knee is over the right ankle. The outer edge of the left foot is pressing down into the mat. The arms are lifting up. The left hip is pressing forward. So much going on even when we're not moving. So we're going to take about 3 or 4 more breaths here. So keep checking in on that alignment, checking in on your position and how you're feeling. And then also focusing on the breath. 2 more breaths here. See if you can bend into that front knee even more. Good. And then you're going to slowly straighten that right leg. Hands can come to the sides of the body as you step the left foot back up to meet the right. Big giant step, or maybe you take a couple little steps if that feels better. Okay. We'll take that same exact pose on the other side. So this time, the right foot is stepping to the back of your mat. 45-degree angle. Hips squared off. As you inhale, the arms lift up. As you exhale, you bend into that left knee, beginning to press down to the outer edge of the right foot as that left knee comes on top of the left ankle. The arms are lengthening. You can look up towards the hands once you've kind of checked out the rest of your alignment. Take about 3 or 4 more breaths here. So focusing on that breath, focusing on bending into that knee, lengthening the arms, maybe a little smile here. And then again, you can straighten that left leg. Hands come to the sides of the body as you step the right foot up to meet the left and just kind of shake it out a little bit. Good. So we're going to bring our feet together. Bring your big toes together. On an inhale, you're going to sit or reach your arms up. Sorry. On the exhale, you're going to sit back into your chair pose. So we're coming into a chair. The shoulders are relaxing away from the ears. The spine is really long. So from your tailbone up to your neck, think about lengthening your spine as you sit back a little further. Being mindful not to let the knees go too far over the ankles. We're going to take a little twist here. So you're going to bring your hands to heart center. You're going to start to twist to the right side. Think about bringing the left elbow towards the right knee. They don't have to connect, but that's kind of the direction you're going. You can look up towards that right elbow or that right shoulder. See if you can keep the knees squared off so that left knee isn't pressing out in front of the right knee. Try to imagine like they're glued together and they can't move. All right, on the next inhale, let's unravel that. So straighten the legs, reach the arms overhead. That should feel really good. Keeping the arms overhead, you're going to take the right foot, cross it behind the left. So almost like you're trying to bring your pinky toes together. Think about kind of touching those little pinky toes. And then as you exhale, fold it forward. Pinky toes don't have to actually be touching, but just kind of in that sort of shape. And then just notice how this forward fold feels. You're going to notice it a lot more in your outer hips. You might also notice that you can't fold as far forward as you do when your legs aren't crossed. That is normal. So about 2 more breaths, just like this. And then on the next inhale, slowly start to lift it up. Be mindful you don't get dizzy because it is a little wobbly. And then you can go ahead and unravel the feet, bringing the big toes back together. Take that breath in as the arms reach up. As you exhale, sit back into your chair. Weight is in the heels as the shoulders relax, creating that length through the back of the body. See if you can sit a little further down. Good. Hands are going to come back to heart center. This time we're twisting to the left. So start to think about keeping the lower half of the body exactly where it is. And just your upper half is starting to turn to the left. That right elbow is going to start to come towards the right knee. The knees are glued, the left knee, right elbow to the left knee. The right knee is staying squared off with the left knee. We're looking towards that left elbow or the left shoulder. And then we'll go ahead and unravel that on the next inhale. Straighten the legs, reach the arms overhead. Nice big breath in. And then this time the left foot crosses behind the right. So again, bringing those pinky toes together. The heels can be away from each other. The heels don't have to be together also. That makes it a little more challenging. And then as you exhale, fold it forward. I'm just noticing where you're feeling on this side. Sometimes one side we notice a little more than the other. That's pretty normal. And then on the next breath, slowly start to lift it all the way up. Reach the arms up overhead. Unravel the feet so that the big toes are back together. And then as you exhale, hands come to heart center. Good. On the next breath in, reach your arms up overhead. As you exhale, big dive down, forward fold. As you inhale, your hands are coming to your shins. Create that nice flat back, little 90-degree angle with the upper body and lower half of the body. And then as you exhale, fold it forward. On the next inhale, lift it all the way up, reach the arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart to center. One more just like that. Inhale as you lift it up. Exhale, big giant dive forward. Inhale to lift up halfway. Exhale to fold a little deeper. And then the next inhale lifts us all the way up, arms come overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good. We're going to step it back to our warrior one again. And then this time we're going to add on a little bit. So the left foot coming right back to the back of the mat where it was before. Go ahead and take a minute to set the feet up. Square off the hips as you inhale, lift the arms up. As you exhale, back into that warrior one. Shoulders are relaxing as that right knee is bending. And then we're going to pivot on the back foot, coming into a high lunge. So all you're doing is grounding down the ball of the left foot and spinning that left heel up. So the heel is no longer on the ground. The left toes are pressing into the mat. Good. See if you can bend a little further into the right knee from here. All right, we're going to add on a little bit of a fun twist, I guess. You're going to start to turn to the right. Your right arm is going to reach behind you. See if I can turn in a good direction. Your left fingertips are going to reach forward, and you're looking back towards that right hand. Good. So we're kind of opening up to the right side. Try to bring your arms parallel to the ground. Good. On the next inhale, go ahead and reach your arms back up overhead, back to that high lunge, kind of unraveling that whole twist. All right, and a little bit of a challenging transition here. We're going to bring our hands to frame out that right foot. So your hands are going to slowly come down to the mat to a low lunge. If you need to kind of bring your leg down or adjust yourself in some way, go ahead. Be gentle with yourself as you get here. We're in a low lunge here. And then you can bring that back knee down. The left knee comes down, untuck the toes. Good. That was kind of a trickier sequence, so good job giving it a shot. As you exhale, you're going to press the hips back, straighten that right leg as you fold over the right leg. We're going to move here a couple times. Inhale, press the hips forward, start to lift up through the upper body. Exhale as you send the hips back. 2 or 3 more times just like that. Inhale, press the hips forward, lifting up. Exhale as you send the hips back. The next time you come forward, we'll start to make our way into our Anjaneyasana, crescent lunge. So the hips press forward, the upper body starts to lift up. Your hands can either be resting on that right knee or they can be reaching up towards the sky. Wherever they are, think about pressing the hips down. So we don't want to be all the way up here. If this is where you're at, that's fine. But the goal is to start pressing the hips down a little bit more. So think about pressing that left thigh towards the mat. And sometimes having your hands on that front knee can help you get a little deeper than if your hands are lifted up. So either option is totally on the table. And then we're going to slowly bring the hands back to frame out that right foot. Gonna tuck the back toes back to that high lunge or low lunge, I'm sorry. Your hands are still on the mat. I'm gonna give you one more fun, funky transition because we have a week off and I need to keep you guys guessing on your toes. So the left foot is gonna step up to meet the right. Maybe you take a couple steps, maybe one giant step, and then we're gonna lift back up into that chair pose. So the knees are bent. We're back in that chair where we were a minute ago. You can sit down a little lower. And on the next inhale, go ahead and lift it all the way back up. Straighten the arms, straighten the legs. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Good job. That was a little bit of a fun one. So good job giving it a try. And now you know where we're going on the other side. So it'll be a little bit easier. We're going to step the right foot back as you set up for that warrior one on the opposite side. So your hips are facing forward. Go ahead and set yourself up and then inhale to lift the arms overhead. Exhale as you bend into that left knee, relax the shoulders, pressing down through the outer edge of the right foot. Think about lengthening through the spine. So the lower half of the body is kind of pressing down, but the upper half is lifting and lengthening. And then we're going to pivot on the ball of that back foot back to your high lunge. So just a little simple movement by lifting the right heel. And you're on the ball of that right toe. Usually this allows you to come a little deeper, so you might find that you can bend into that left knee a little bit more. And then we're going to start to find that twist. So you're going to start to look to the left side. The left arms are going to reach behind you. The right hand is going to reach in front of you. Challenge yourself to look back towards the left hand. That is pretty challenging. I think I I said look back at that hand on the other side, but if you're not there yet, that's okay. Just work on turning the head backwards. Arms are parallel to the ground. This is wobbly and it's challenging, so good job. We're gonna go ahead and unravel that. So back to that high lunge, the arms are now lifting back up overhead. And we're gonna take that transition down by slowly starting to bring your hands to frame out that left foot. You need to bring the back knee down on your way down. That's okay because we're going there anyway. Now we're all gonna lower that right knee down. We're all gonna untuck that right toe. And as you exhale, straighten the left leg, press the hips back as you fold over that left leg. And you can go ahead and move here a couple times with your breath. Press the hips down, lift up through the upper body as you rebend the left knee. Exhale as you send the hips back. A few more times just like that. Feel free to pause in any of these shapes. If it feels good and you need a couple more breaths, that is fine. And then the next time you come forward, let's find that Anjaneyasana, your crescent lunge, by pressing the hips down and starting to lift up through the upper body. The shoulders relax as the arms start to come up overhead. Take your gaze towards your hands, or those hands can hang out right on the knee, and your gaze would still be up towards the sky either way. About 2 more breaths here. And then you're gonna slowly bring your hands back to frame out that left foot. The right toes tuck as you straighten that back leg. And now we're coming back to that chair pose. So you can take a bunch of steps with that right foot. It doesn't have to be one tiny step. You can kind of slowly walk that right foot up. Whenever your feet are together, put a little bend in your knees and then start to lift up through the upper body, eventually making your way into that chair pose. The weight is in the heels here. You can wiggle the toes as you sit back on the hips in that imaginary chair. And then slowly straighten the legs, reach the arms up. Big breath in, and as you exhale, hands come back to heart center. Good. Go ahead and shake it out a little bit. If you want to shake out the arms, shake out the legs, grab a sip of water, or kind of swing it from side to side. Dance it out if that feels good. Kind of let it go. And then, speaking of dance, why don't we do a dancer for our balance this evening? So once you've taken that break, shook it out, feel a little more grounded, we're going to lift up the left arm, take your right hand out to the side of your body. You're going to take the right foot in the right hand. So you're holding onto that right foot, standing up nice and tall, and you are balancing here because you're on one foot. So if this is where you're at, this is where you're at, and you're going to keep working on this. If even this feels wobbly, not even this is challenging. If this feels wobbly, stand next to a wall so that you can bring your hand to that wall or your shoulder to that wall. If you want to start to add on a little bit more, the right foot is going to begin to press away from the body, and the upper body reminds me of a seesaw. As the back goes back, the upper body starts to go down. Good. So you can still be next to that wall if that helps. It definitely helps. About 2 or 3 more breaths here. If you need to put that right foot down a million times and pick it back up, go ahead and do that. Just challenge yourself, kind of find that edge, find where it's just enough challenging for you. And that's where you want to hang out. That's where you're going to get the most benefit out of it. If you push yourself too much, you aren't able to do it, and then you're not getting anything out of it. But if you don't push yourself enough, same thing. So find that perfect spot for you. And then when you're ready, slowly start to lift it back up. Right foot comes down, left hand comes down, and shake out that standing leg a little bit. Give it a break before you start to transition over to the other side. So when you're ready, you'll find a nice firm foundation with the right foot. If you're using that wall, switch sides so that now your right shoulder is next to the wall. The right arm lifts up, and then you can take the left foot in your left hand, kind of grabbing the top of that foot. And then you decide if this feels like enough, you're gonna stay here for a couple of breaths. If you're adding on, start to kick the left foot away from the body, and then the upper body naturally starts to come down a little bit. So eventually this pose becomes a little bit of a back bend as you're kind of pressing the left foot away from you, that back is starting to arch a little bit. So you can think about that. Even if you're still standing straight up, pressing that foot away from you can create a little bit of an arch in your back. So that's something to keep in mind as you're moving through this pose. And then when you're ready to come out of it, slowly start to lift yourself up. Left foot comes down, the right hand comes down. And again, shake it all out. Let it go. Good. We're going to make our way back to the top of our mats, and we're going to step back into our first warrior two. We've done a couple warrior ones tonight. You're going to step the left foot all the way back. This time, the outer edge of the left foot is parallel to the back of your mat. The right toes are facing forward. As you inhale, lift the arms up, right fingertips forward, left fingertips back. As you exhale, bend into that right knee, finding your warrior two. So the hips are opening up to the side of your mat. The knee is bending to the top of your mat. Take your gaze to the center middle finger on your right hand. See if you can bend into that right knee just a little bit more. And then slowly starting to straighten that right leg. We're going to turn the right toes to face the side of your mat. So now you're facing the left side. As you inhale, start to reach the arms overhead. As you exhale, big wide-legged forward fold. Take it all the way down. And you're going to take any movement here that feels good for you. So I always like to leave this up to you to kind of decide. And some options could be bending one knee at a time, sort of rocking side to side, maybe walking your hands to one leg, and then walking them over to the other leg. Maybe holding on to opposite elbows like I suggested at the beginning of class. And then gently just beginning to bring your hands back in front of you. As you slowly lift yourself back up, you can kind of press into the thighs, sort of lift the upper body up. And we're going to take that warrior two in the opposite direction. So you're going to turn the left toes to face the back of your mat. And now you're kind of set up for it facing backwards. So as you inhale, the arms lift up, relax the shoulders. As you exhale, bend into that left knee. Take your gaze towards the left fingertips. So the right foot is parallel to the back of your mat, which used to be the front of your mat. If you can bend a little deeper into that left knee as you relax the shoulders, lift the chin so that it's parallel to the ground. It's good to look down and kind of check in on yourself, but then once you're done, you want to lift that gaze. Think about the top of the head lifting up towards the sky. And then slowly straightening that left leg. Turn the left toes to face the side of your mat. And one more time, we're going to take that wide-legged fold. So inhale, the arms come back up. Exhale, one last time, fold it forward. And same thing, you get to decide what you do here. You can walk your hands really far away from you, sort of, always reminds me of like a wide-legged downward dog. You can walk your hands behind the body, sort of drawing the top of the head down towards the earth. Take about 3 or 4 more breaths here. And then again, the hands start to walk in front of the face as you bring them to the thighs, or just slowly help yourself back up to standing, however it feels comfortable. And then you can just sort of heel toe the feet back together, take a bunch of little steps until you're back standing up straight, and make your way back to the top of your mat. So from the top of the mat, we're going to take a breath and lift the arms up overhead. As you exhale, big swan dive down, forward fold. Let's take that little halfway lift as you bring your hands to your shins. Inhale, flat back. This time, as you exhale, you're going to step it back to your downward facing dog. So your hands are coming to the mat, and then maybe one giant step, maybe a couple smaller steps until you're back in that downward facing dog. 2 breaths here as you start to settle back in. Notice how you're feeling. Maybe your heels are pressing a little bit closer to the mat because the backs of the legs are feeling a little more open at this point. Or maybe your legs are just a little more shaky because you're a little tired. Either way, just acknowledge where you are. And then from here, we're all going to come back into that tabletop position. So the knees are going to lower back down onto the mat. You can take a couple of rounds of cat and cow if that feels good, just sort of stretching out the back of the body a little bit. Hips can rock from side to side. That head can kind of shake yes or no a little bit. And then we're going to start to set up for our pigeon on our stomachs this time. So like I said at the beginning of class, if you like to do it on your back, you can turn back over and do the same thing we did at the beginning. Or you're going to bring your right knee behind your right wrist, place it on the mat. The left foot is going to start to extend long behind you. Press the top of the left foot into the mat. Flex through the right foot as you kind of rock from side to side a little bit on your hips. So think about weight being evenly distributed on both hips. More than likely, you're leaning a little bit to the right side. See if you can adjust so that your more weight is on the left side or even weight is on the left side. And then as you inhale, open up through the front of the body, lift up a little bit. As you exhale, you're going to slowly start to walk the hands away from the body as you begin to lower yourself down to a level that feels comfortable for you. So it's always nice to start on the elbows. Just kind of see how this feels. And if you're staying here on the elbows, I encourage you to either bend your elbows so that you kind of rest your chin in your palm, or maybe you have kind of block or something to rest your head on. You want to find something to rest your head on. Or if you're ready to come a little lower, if you lower down beyond the elbows, you can stack your fists, rest your forehead on your fists. You decide how far down you come, but wherever you are, you want to support the head so that you can completely relax through the back of the body. The shoulders can start to let go, the neck, the back. I'm going to release some of that tension. As you take about 5 or so breaths into this pose, start to notice what opens up, what you're able to let go of, and where you're able to go. And then you're going to slowly begin to walk the hands back towards the body as the upper body starts to press back up. And we'll just slowly make our way back into that tabletop position. So the right knee starts to slide back to meet the left. Hips can sort of rock it out from side to side, or a little cat and cow if that feels good between the sides. And then you'll eventually make your way over onto the left side. So the left knee starts to slide right behind the left wrist. The right foot starts to extend a little longer, or the right leg does. Press the top of the right foot down into the mat as you flex the left toes. Take your time to set yourself up here. You know you're going to have a couple breaths in the pose, so you don't need to rush into it. As you slowly lower yourself down to that spot that feels good. And sometimes it's a progression. Sometimes you take a couple of breaths in one space, and then you feel like you are a little more open and you can start to come down a little bit further. So that's why we hang out in this one for a little while longer, so that you can start to notice that opening up. You relax the shoulders, head starts to come onto something, whether it's blocks or the mat or your hand. That right hip presses down so that it's even weight on the left and right side. And about 3 or 4 more breaths. And then just gently starting to walk the hands back towards you as the upper body starts to press up. One last time, find your way into your tabletop position by sliding the left knee back to meet the right. One last little cat and cow or hip circles or whatever it is that feels good for you. And then when you're ready, you'll start to make your way into a seated position with your feet at the top of your mat. So your legs are extended long, your feet are flexed. sitting up nice and tall. And then we're just going to take it all the way down. So extend your arms long, and then one vertebrae at a time, you can slowly lower yourself onto your mat, taking a big full body stretch once you get there, reaching the arms overhead. Inhale. And on the exhale, the hands can come to the sides of the body. Good. It feels good to take a big exhale and kind of sigh it out and let it all go. And then we're going to begin to make our way into our bridge pose by bending the knees. So getting in our back bend. The knees are bent, the feet are at the base of the spine. As you inhale, you'll start to peel the hips up off the mat. So pressing those hips up towards the sky. Hands can continue to press down, or the other option is to roll the shoulders under you and then work on interlacing the hands under the body. So either option, wherever you are, you really want to think about getting that nice bend in the back of the body. So relaxing through the back. We don't want to be like tensing the glutes and the back and all that. You want to relax it as much as you can, which can seem kind of weird when we're engaging our core and pressing our hips up, but to the best of your ability, try to let some of that tension go. And then slowly, one vertebrae at a time, the spine starts to peel back down onto the mat. Once your tailbone touches, your knees can rock from side to side, little windshield wiper movement. And we'll start to come into our inversion. So I always like to suggest doing legs up the wall, on a wall, if you're near a wall, or if you like that. If you don't have a wall or you don't want to use the wall, then you can just do it right in the center of your room. So you're either going to lift your legs up in the air, or you're going to lift your legs up against a wall. If you have them lifted in the air, you can bring your hands either behind your thighs or under your tailbone, so you're kind of sitting on your hands, just to kind of make it a little more comfortable. So your choice. If you are using a wall, just know that there's no graceful way of getting there, and that's okay. You just got to put one hip against the wall and sort of kick the feet up, scoot yourself closer to the wall as best you can. But wherever you are, we're all going to stay here for about 7 breaths or so. Just allowing the feet to get above the head, above the heart. And this starts to shut off the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight, our stress, our anxiety. And then it turns on your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest. It taps into that nervous system and allows us to start to calm down, slow down, create a little bit of a peaceful feeling just through the poses that we do or the shapes that we make. It's pretty cool. And then we're all going to slowly start to bring our knees back towards us. If you have your legs up the wall and you want to end the class there, that is fine. That's a great way to do Shavasana, so totally up to you. If you aren't using the wall, I recommend not staying there because it'll be a little challenging. So start to bring your knees in towards you and kind of rock your legs out from side to side, make little circles. And we're just going to find one final little twist. So bringing your arms to either side of you, let the knees start to release to the right. As the shoulders press down into the mat, you can take your gaze up towards the ceiling, or you can look over to the left. Slowly closing the eyes, or maybe just letting your vision become a little blurry. So you're not really focusing on anything. Everything's kind of out of focus. The breath starts to just slow down, but really just not pay attention to the breath. So throughout your class, we're very intentional about the inhales and the exhales, but now I want you to just put that down, let it go, breathe however it feels comfortable for you to breathe. And then just gently start to draw the knees back through center and making your way over to the left side. So the knees are coming to the left. You can continue to look up, or maybe you start to look to the right, taking that twist in the opposite direction, letting the legs relax wherever they feel comfortable. And then again, slowly starting to bring the knees back through center. You can keep the feet on the mat with the knees bent. And take this moment to do that final little check-in with yourself as you ask yourself what you still need. And if it's a pose, go ahead and offer that pose. If it's one more little twist or stretch, go ahead and do that now. If it's something physical, like a blanket or a pillow or some water, go ahead and grab those things. And then once you're feeling really good and really complete, start to decide what final pose you want to end your practice in. So if you're coming into a more traditional Shavasana, you're going to extend your legs long, maybe even bringing the feet a little bit wider apart. Your arms can come really wide. But if that doesn't feel comfortable, you have lots of options. You can sit up, you can come onto your side. I've seen people on their stomachs before. It does not matter what the shape is. What matters is that you feel really comfortable, really peaceful, really safe. So take some time as you set yourself up. Start to close your eyes if they weren't already. Start to feel yourself sort of just letting go, kind of floating or melting, whatever visual feels really good to you, feeling completely supported, almost like you're being cradled by the earth or your mat. And you can completely just surrender and completely let go here in your Shavasana. And just take a couple moments now to just be here on your mat in Shavasana. Slowly beginning to deepen your breath. Just gently beginning to bring your awareness back to your fingers and your toes. As always, gentle movements in whatever way feels good for you. So that could be bending or straightening the legs, depending on where you are. It could be reaching the arms up overhead for one more full body stretch. If you're lying down, I invite you to turn over onto your side, coming into a fetal shape, resting your head on your arm, with the knees bent. Taking these last few moments here on your mat to allow that peaceful feeling that you just created, all those poses, all those breaths you took. Let all of that start to settle right there in the center of your heart. So that when you get off your mat soon and go back out into the rest of your day, the rest of your week, that feeling is still right there in the center. Hold on to it. Tap into it when you need it. Whenever you're ready, you can slowly start to make your way back up to a seated position if you're not already. Lifting yourself up, using your hands to guide you. Your eyes can either stay closed or close them again once you arrive. bringing your hands to heart center. I am so, 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 so grateful for all of you for joining me tonight, for bringing your light and your energy, sharing it with everyone here. I hope you have the most beautiful week, and also beautiful week next week. A happy, happy Thanksgiving. Until I see you all again, namaste.